All right, guys. So this is episode 1 of the Nameless podcast that we just decided
put together last minute, right?
We will have a name before you watch this anyway. So I'm sure you would have seen it in the intro that just came before what we're saying right now.
So introducing ourselves, this is Will.
Hi guys, so I represent Primabolics Nutrition. I've been manufacturing supplements here in Australia for about 3-4 years. Glad to be on the podcast today. We've been trying to put something like this together because the industry currently doesn't have much of a spokesperson or anyone to really represent our opinion or voice. So I guess I'll be representing today the those who manufacture in Australia and are sort of the wholly Australian owned and made supplement part of the industry. So that's where I come in, guys, and yourselves too.
Yeah, so my name's Shannon. Obviously, I've been involved in the supplement industry for a long time now, about a decade actually, and I've been involved in everything from supplement distribution to formulation, and now in actually the retail side and have a supplement store myself. So I've kind of seen every aspect that there is to see of the supplement industry. And yeah, I definitely, it's my passion, it's my life, and it's something that I'm really passionate about protecting, which is, I guess, what leads into what we're going to be talking about today.
Correct.
Certainly. And I think it's valuable to mention that Matt as well, mate, you represent quite a few massive brands, international as well. So we've got Ozzie small business owners here, manufacturers, retail spaces as well as.
So what we want to talk
brands.
about is how does it affect myself, international brands versus along with Australian brands.
Yeah,
so for those of you who missed what we're actually going to be talking about. The TGA, which is the Therapeutic Goods Administration, this is the governing body that oversees therapeutic goods that make therapeutic claims on medicines, and they're proposing new laws that will see products that are currently classified as supplementary sports foods or health foods, it will see them reclassified as medicines. Okay, now in order for that process to happen, nearly every single product that we have on our shelves would have to be removed and be reclassified, essentially wiping out the industry overnight. And this is a huge problem.
Basically,
for all of us.
Armageddon.
for our industry.
For our industry, this is a nightmare. So for myself personally, I mean, my store, we at any given time have about $50,000 worth of stock on the shelves. That would be removed. That would all have to be reclassified, and the length of time that it would take for a reclassification process of 70,000 products from a small government department like the TGA, the time frame is
you could shut us down for months, and in that period of
years
time,
even.
And in that time, the employment implications that has to the local economy, like the GDP from the Australian supplement industry is huge, and it's currently a very well functioning, well regulated space with huge onflowing employment benefits and economic benefits. So it's going to be quite wide-reaching, but I think something that's really valuable to touch on, I guess. So if we just go through, gents, what's being proposed, what's currently in place. So I guess we can. The beautiful thing is that we're here today because we actually are in full support of the what's currently playing in our space in terms of regulations. We're the most regulated industry in the world with sports supplements. We're the most regulated country in all aspects of manufacturing and sales. So we won't touch so much on what's currently in place because we're already sort of best practice worldwide. I like to think.
Well, that's right. We do have the strictest regulations in the world on supplementary sports foods at the moment.
How far is overregulation?
Exactly, and that's what we're kind of questioning today. Like, in my opinion, there are some people who could argue that we're already overregulated. There's products that are available over the counter, for example, in the US, in the UK, in Canada, that we don't have access to here. They've been banned and been made totally illegal. Despite the fact that in the US, these are considered low-risk food products.
Yes, with therapeutic benefits per se as well. We would think things that just have general health benefits. Products in America containing melatonin and so on are widely available over the shelves, which help people, everything from children through to adults, improve their sleep quality, well-being, and energy. And these are things that are widely available there. And here for a long time now, they've been,
My favourite ingredient, Nupept.
Yeah, Nupep, for example. Yeah, and that nootropic space is fantastic. Things that can help with mental focus. So a big part of today is talking that we're not just talking about bodybuilders. We're not just talking about meatheads and people who are obsessed with training, the Instagram models you see. We're talking about everyday people who just want to sleep better, feel better, have more energy, be able to help. If they want to change body composition goals, that's great. But this affects more than just people who are trying to go to the gym and lose weight or build muscle. It's not all about that. Today is everyone from people who use fish oil daily through to vitamin C. It's going to impact.
Exactly right, and I think this is the thing that people aren't really understanding at the moment. At first glance, people are like, well, this might affect some, Instagram model or some bodybuilder. This affects the choices of every Australian. If you look at your health food section in Woolworths, this will wipe half of that section out overnight. And the kinds of products we're talking about that could potentially be banned, they are foods. We're talking about products like protein. We're talking about products like amino acids, vitamins, minerals, nutrients. These are things that are found naturally in foods that you can easily consume that way, okay? Now, what do we use them for in the industry? Well, when people have gaps in their diets, when people are lacking in something, when people are deficient in something, we can bump those up with a supplementary version of that food.
And that's just what they are. They're a supplement, right?
They're a supplement. So we're taking that food and we're saying, let's give it to you in a simpler, more convenient way that can, help you maintain basic health. This is what it's all about. So this affects all Aussies, and it affects your potential choice in the future about what's even there for you to consume. It's essentially, if this happens, it will wipe out everything we have, decimate an industry. People are saying, well, it's not doing that. It's just changing the regulations on these products. But what happens in the process while this regulatory change happens is the industry implodes on itself.
So my mum, for example, who takes like fish oil or something like that.
Yeah, certainly. My parents will do. Yeah, calcium, like vitamin D, all these are pressed capsule products, that are obviously will be under the space. So I think it's really valuable now. Generally, we just briefly touch on what's actually in the ledge is what's been put forward by TGA, just so we can give people who are the listeners sort of a bit of an understanding on what's affected and just generally what's been outlined there. So I think, Stu, you've done some fantastic interviews so far on this one. So if you wanted to outline particularly the wording around the performance and maintenance and
so essentially in the past or currently, you need to register your product as a medicine if it is making therapeutic claims or claims that the product can help to prevent or cure an ailment or illness.
What we call an explicit claim,
Exactly
certainly.
Right, okay? And that's great. That legislation is important. If you're making therapeutic claims, if you're claiming to be a medicine or you're claiming to kind of heal or cure any kind of illness or ailment, it's important that it should be medicine.
Should be scrutinised.
This is great. I love that legislation. Okay, but that already exists. That's currently the law. Now, the legislation that's being put forward expressly includes any product that can have any potential impact on physical, mental, or any recreational performance.
Certainly. And it's not just either enhancing that performance either, is that it's maintenance. So it's literally it's either enhancement or maintenance of physical or mental performance.
Now let's get back to why this all started. I believe it was the swimmer. Was that right?
So that's very much
we need to find out.
Yeah, of course, man. So I guess there was the two cases there. There was the.
Do you want to talk about the deaths?
Yeah, I will do. I'll touch on that.
The caffeine guy of the.
Yeah, definitely. So that was a mix-up where. And again, that wasn't a supplement used, but a very good point in bringing it up. So I guess where this was originally put forward, so this legislation affecting anything that will perform or enhance or maintain current performance, whether that's mental or physical, that's currently what's going under. Anything that pertains to weight loss, fat loss, hormonal balance, muscle building. So essentially any keyword you'll see on anything.
Anything that's taken pre-workout or after
workout. Yeah, that's right. So preparing for a workout, recovering from a workout. So this affects literally, the elderly who wish to exercise and can't recover as well as it affects everyone. But anyway, so that's what's been put forward. And as background, what sort of spurred all this on was two events that happened in somewhat close proximity. One was a young man who unfortunately passed away due to consumption of something like 5 grams of
6 grams.
6 grams of pure caffeine. Now, anyone who's who's ever used any sports supplements, give you guys, even if you're not a consumer of sports supplements, let's take a Red Bull or a coffee as a commonly consumed product. An espresso has between 80 to 120 milligrams of caffeine per shot. A Red Bull is about 80 milligrams of caffeine. A Mother would be sort of 160 to give you a space. This is 6,000 milligrams was consumed in a straight powder. Obscene amount. It's definitely the LD50 on caffeine. You would definitely, if you knew that, you would not be consuming 6 grams.
Can I just make one point before we continue further?
Please do.
I really want to make it, something clear is that to buy pure caffeine is illegal and already was illegal when this happened.
Already regulated, 100%.
Already regulated.
Can't be done. And we have limitations on per serving as well.
Even on the products, it's like warning, directions. This is how you use it. This is how much you should take daily. don't overexceed
There are
it.
recommended
But I can go to
guidelines
the
and all.
cafe and say, give me a triple shot of caffeine or quadruple shot. And
Yep, and because it's not a sports supplement, that's
Yeah.
completely fine. And and hilariously enough, a lot of us use natural and organic forms of caffeine as well. Things like green coffee bean extract
Yep.
is a very common, caffeine replacement we use because it's very well tolerated, very safe. And again, it's something that's already regulated. It's a good point, Stu. It's something. These are things that can't happen anyway, that were illegal to begin with, that have sort of caused a bit of a knee-jerk reaction, unfortunately. Now, the next thing that's worthy of causing, because it's an equal anomaly, I guess, would be unfortunately passing away from the consumption of protein, which I guess is like saying the young lady who passed away there, and due to a rare kidney disease, rare kidney condition, caused a bit of acute renal failure. So it's sort of like saying if you eat a steak, you're going to die. It's that unlikely, but unfortunately, it just happened to be.
So essentially what happened in that case is there was an underlying illness. Her body could not process proteins.
Yep.
Okay, and regardless of where that protein source comes from, her body had the inability to process proteins.
Whether it's from an egg or a protein shake.
Exactly right, and therefore toxins built up. Now, it just so happens that this individual happened to use protein powders as part of her regular diet. And I guess the spotlight has been shone directly on the supplement, regardless of any other protein sources that were in the diet. And that's where we have an issue with it. Now, this is something that we have to tread lightly around because lives have been lost. There's obviously families that are affected and grieving.
It is.
And, I understand that. And that's why I think that regulation is important. And that's what the TGA does, and the food standards also does that as well. So essentially, just because these products aren't medicines at the moment, it doesn't mean that they're not regulated.
And not looked at closely. It haven't been for years. Very, very good point.
Exactly right. So we have what's called the FSANZ, the Food Standards of Australia and New Zealand, and this is laws surrounding all food products that are consumed, from a loaf of bread in the supermarket to your protein powder on the shelves. It's the same law that protects someone from putting rat poison in your bread as it does from someone putting anabolic substances in your protein powder.
Yep.
The same law already exists to protect that. So essentially, if you're looking at this legislation, it's like saying, all right, someone put rat poison in my bread, so now we're going to classify all breads as scheduled poisons.
Correct, yes.
Which is insane.
Yeah, exact equivalent, isn't it? Yeah, exact same equivalent. Very, very good analogy actually, because you're dead right. I mean, it's just going back to how we said that we've got such a beautiful and robust sort of schedule, already governs this body. The FSANZ is a very clear document that covers a huge amount of what we are and aren't allowed to put in sports supplements currently. And my manufacturer I was on the phone to this morning, previous to this podcast, and was asking, and they're all for it. They said, look, if they're really quite serious about improving, minimising risk, which I think we can all agree is, it's
important.
It is.
At the end of the day, what I want to see is a safe industry that's economically viable. Okay,
Yep.
I want to see an industry that provides high quality products that help our
people.
consumers with their health, lifestyle, fitness, whatever it may be.
Certainly.
And it needs to be safe and it needs to be economically viable. Now, what does this legislation do? Well, it removes an industry for starters, so that's not economically viable. It doesn't make the industry any safer. In fact, it can actually make it more risky. What happens when you remove this industry from the retail sector in Australia?
Yeah, from the domestic setting, then you start going, well, the obvious reaction to that one would be, well, if I can no longer source goods that I regularly use, and it's a $1.1 billion industry, so there are a huge amount of people who benefit from using sports supplements every day. So obviously, it's not a case of, well, if they can't get them, they just will stop using them. It's a case of these people use these supplements, they love these supplements, and it might be for everything from sleep to recovery, whatever it might be. They're now going to go overseas and source underground and source it from an even less regulated space. So a lot of countries have got a lot more relaxed laws in Australia, outlined by them. Even just say the FDA in America versus the Therapeutic Goods Administration in Australia has very, very different views on what should and shouldn't be regulated, at what dosage it's available. So straight away we go from trying to improve and decrease the risk of consumers in Australia by putting in these harsher regulations, and straight away we're driving them to offshore or underground production or availability, which is a wildly unregulated space. So it pushes them to an unsafe market, unregulated market space, which is where it comes into, I guess, Matt, your involvement in representing some of the biggest brands in the world, international brands. I can speak for the domestic angle, but this doesn't just affect Australian economies either, and it doesn't just affect our brands here. This will severely hamper, international business too, won't it?
Correct. So a lot of people have been asking me, do you think the TGA doing this to absorb. Like they realize the industry is huge, right? Do you think they want to put their hand in the pie? And...
Okay, so I'm not here to demonise the TGA. I want to explain what I think. Okay, I think the TGA has the best intentions. Okay,
Yep,
I believe the
there.
TGA has the best intentions. I believe that they have thrown this document together without realizing the implications of what their wording does. Okay, so the way that this document is worded, it is so ambiguous that it essentially destroys a market, and I don't think they realize that. I think what they were trying to achieve was something where they could just say, if we make everything a medicine, we can now go and make decisions about what can be removed without having to investigate. So, and that's a problem. You know, with any other law, to be found guilty or to be breaking the law, there's an investigation process.
Yes.
Okay. You know, all right, this car was stolen, and we think that, you know, Bobby did it. All right, well, Bobby now needs to be investigated. He needs to go through a trial and to figure out if he's indeed guilty of the crime. That's how the process works at the moment. So if someone breaks these laws, the laws are very strict, mind you, and the penalties are huge. We're talking 5 years imprisonment. We're talking millions of dollars in fines.
There were certain fines that were given out for something as simple as, say, folic acid in products. You know, too much. More than 30 milligrams of zinc in products, like harmless minerals and vitamins. And these were fines, and fines that were, some companies incurred fines that were in, 6-figure plus.
Do you find what's your opinion of them being categorized? Like, I'll give you an example. Like the ingredient that they're talking about right now is DMAA. Do you find that absurd that they're classing that as something like ice, the same category? I'm not saying
I believe it's absurd. But in saying that, if
it's just getting an understanding of what they think.
Yeah, so I believe that's absurd. I believe that there are some things that have been banned in Australia that, in my personal opinion, may have been low risk. However, in saying that, that's not my judgment call to make.
Yep.
So if the government body decides that something is a high risk product and that it's causing damage to people for whatever reason,
wouldn't that sorry to interrupt, but wouldn't that be up to the user to be responsible? It's like saying, oh man, alcohol is fine, but if I drink heaps of it, I go crash my car. That's being irresponsible of using. I know it's a.
It should fall. Some responsibility should fall on the consumer.
And some does.
It's like I go into a gym. I'm going to squat 10 plates aside. Here we go. Let's go.
And not expecting.
And then I'm going to sue the gym afterwards because I didn't squat those 10 plates.
Yeah, I mean there is always going to be some responsibility on the user. So if I buy a tub of pre-workout that's 60 serves and I consume those 60 serves in one serving,
as opposed to the recommended guideline, then that's where the grey area is, right?
Exactly right. And I mean the way that the current law exists, there'll be an investigation done to see if there was, if there was anything in this product that, may be dangerous or whatever. But it's not going to come back on the company if the user blatantly ignored the recommendations on the bottle. So there is already some laws protecting that. It's not certainly. This is not. The TGA is the big bad wolf, and they're out to get the supplement companies. However, the impact of this legislation will destroy these companies. Whether the TGA has done that intentionally
or not, which I'm sure there wasn't the case. Obviously, there was 2 deaths, in very close proximity, and this is obviously, a somewhat well-meaning government department's response to that issue. And by all means, we've all operated in the space. We've all worked in retail outlets. We've dealt with people directly coming in every day for years, and manufactured it as well, and on-sold, etc. And so we deal with this all the time. But where we think the issue has arisen is that, unfortunately, the initial blanket response to help to increase safety might not have taken into account already stringent safety guidelines and impacts further what's currently...
It does. And it has some really obscure potential outcomes. So we're not just talking about supplements now becoming medicines. We're talking about anything that's a pressed pill.
You mentioned...
Regardless of if it makes a therapeutic claim now.
You mentioned Tic Tacs earlier.
Anything that's a pressed pill. So we're looking at lifesavers. We're looking at Pez lollies. These will now be classified as medicine. We're looking at... If this legislation passes in its current state, the word is important when it comes to the law. And the way that it's worded, it would put these products into that category.
Certainly, because they're pressed capsules.
We're talking about, sweeteners. You get your little...
stevia, xylitols, all those
What about your little stock, your flavour stocks, chicken stock?
Well, that's a little bit different. That's not a pressed pill. It just happens to be in a cube form. But, I mean, the implications, there's some ridiculous implications to this. You look at Gatorade. Gatorade, because in the wording of this document, anything that can improve recovery
Yes.
from a workout is now a medicine. So that would make Powerade and Gatorade now medicine. It would be scheduled. You would not be able to buy this over the counter.
So my
as a
daughter
food
who
product.
goes for like a run, cross-country run, she can't drink Gatorade now.
Well, she can, but it
made in a
will need to be
registered facility.
It will need to be manufactured in a TGA facility, registered as a medicine.
A medicine, okay.
Okay, it's not a food anymore, and it's not just readily
So
available.
it's the same
like
category as Panadol, basically.
Exactly right.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, no difference at all in theory. And I guess that's a worthwhile space, I think, though. But again, we're all that's a really valuable point, I think, that we're bringing forward to the table, because I think just the far-reaching impacts on these is quite fascinating. And like I said, with the factory that I spoke to earlier this morning before doing this podcast, so we gave them a call and said, "Oh, look, what's your take on this?" And they said, look, we welcome it. We said there's some cowboys in the industry that have for a long time sold some very dodgy things that should never have been put in the market. And most of us, and us as retailers, we know the laws, we as manufacturers do too. And we don't when we see those products, it's just a slap in the face to the rest of us.
We're as against that as the TGA is. As a retailer, I don't want to sell unsafe products to my customer.
No. Right.
If somebody's breaking the law and sneaking something into a supplement or releasing something that's making therapeutic claims that it doesn't deliver, I don't want that on my shelf.
No.
I want food products on my shelf.
And for a large part, they're already regulated things, right? So in the actual wording on the document, it came through and said, it mentioned anabolics, PEDs, it mentioned SARMs. So these are things that were banned formally over nearly 12 months ago now already. These things are very regulated, they're scheduled drugs. They're in the same category as amphetamines and narcotics. In a lot of cases, these aren't things that would be widely available anyway. And the factory welcomed, if they said, oh, look, if it was something about trying to make the industry safer, they'd be on board, and they'd be happy to open their doors to be thoroughly audited and inspected, as currently is this practice anyway.
And Troy from International Protein touched based on this as well. So it would be actually very expensive. Why would they put like some sort of SARM into like an amino acid?
Oh yeah, from an economic perspective,
it's spike it.
It's wildly, apart from the legal implications, it's also practical, economically from a manufacturing perspective. So it's that's a valuable point too. It's something that's prohibited by legality and cost, just to try and put it together. So we all know that's absurd from our end, which is good. But the beautiful thing about starting this, which I hope is an ongoing project, is we can hopefully put forward the opinion of people who live and breathe this. We all do that every day of the week. We speak to the people who actually are interested in this sort of thing. But and like Stu said, the far-reaching implications of not just people trying to build muscle or be just not meatheads and bodybuilders and models and so on. This is people who want to fill gaps in their diet, things like super greens, multivitamins, fish oils,
things
vitamin
that we take
C
every
tablets,
day.
vitamin D. God, the amount of people now that it's great to see with GPs more educated now on things like recommending vitamin D.
Taking
calcium,
more natural products to help with anxiety and stress.
Oh, that's a huge one.
Rather than going, and that's a big growing industry. Rather than buying pharmaceutical over the counter, we're getting a prescription for this thing.
It's a natural.
Hey, I want to try the herbal way. Can I do that?
Definitely.
No, I can't. What?
And anyone who's had any sort of first-hand interaction with things like antidepressants, SSRIs and stuff, will know firsthand how much more harsh and how much more adverse side effects can be in a pharmaceutical versus a natural alternative, herbs that we all play with every day. A lot of adaptogens and Chinese and Indian botanicals that have beautiful benefits to the body, that have no real known interactions or don't cause the rapid weight gain, depression, mood fluctuations, appetite, libido issues, all these sort of things that come from using a therapeutic medicine in place of a natural alternative, or at least something that's a bit that we can help recommend is good for a customer. That space is going to be what's going to suffer.
So basically, like a 50-year-old wants to feel like a 17-year-old again.
Yeah,
it's going to affect that.
Something I just want to touch on, because it's something I want to remind the general public and anyone watching this podcast, to be honest, is people are probably watching this and saying, well, what are you guys talking about? You keep on talking about these products won't be available, these products will be gone, but the TGA is only asking them for them to be re-regulated. So it just means that that they'll now be called something else, but we'll still be able to buy them. But I think something that's really important to note is the turnover time. Okay, so in theory, that's true. In theory, these products would all be re-regulated, released onto the market as as medicines.
Certainly.
But
they'll come back, right?
Here's where the issue lies, okay? If we have a break in the supply chain, okay? If there's a period of time where the products that we have at the moment are removed from the shelves because they do not comply now with the new laws, they no longer comply.
Yep.
We cannot do business. We cease to operate. The shelves in my store are empty, okay? Now, you look at the current process of registering a medicine or registering something as therapeutic. It takes between 6 and 12 months. I've seen this done many times over the last 10 years in the industry.
At least 6,
Okay? That's one product. Take 70,000. Simultaneously have them now applying. this will remove all products from the market, regardless of if the legislation says these products are banned. It essentially bans them. That's what the legislation does. So people are looking at the legislation going, this doesn't say that everything's banned. This just says that they have to be reclassified. By reclassifying the products, you remove them from the market for...
however long it takes to do it. So from a manufacturing insight on that, for example, let's say there's 100 commonly used ingredients in these 70,000 products, right? The manufacturer then either has to limit their importation or completely wipe out current stock. So like you said before, you'll have 50k worth of stock on your shelves you have to wipe out. In that period of transitions, you've then got empty shelves. You have to rebuy that 50. That's a $100,000 investment. Your staff in that meantime are out of the job. You're more than likely out of the job. In that meantime, myself, I employ 6 people directly. We've probably got 200 grand plus worth of stock on hand, which then becomes, again, removing that stock, repurchasing that stock, the lag in production. This is people rely on us for their weekly wage.
I mean, it affects everyone. People who do the curing, people like that.
Yeah, and the thing to remember is people go, okay, well, but if we wait it out, eventually these products will come back. That's what the general public's saying.
That's what they're
saying.
Right?
If we wait it out, they'll come back. Now, that's also incorrect, because if this happens, I'm the retailer, okay? I'm the person who directly sells these products to you. My doors close in this process, okay? Because I don't have products anymore. So my doors close. That's every retailer I'm talking about. I'm representing.
Of course. And
retailer.
And
then,
manufacturing.
do you think that when there's no retail outlets to sell from, do you think the manufacturer will then proceed with this therapeutic classification process?
If demand disappears, why offer supply?
Exactly right. So you now have no market. You've destroyed the market. The whole thing implodes. These companies aren't then going to go and apply for licenses for therapeutic goods when they have no one to sell it to. So the whole market disappears overnight. It doesn't come back in 10 years because the market's gone. Okay, no one's going to spend. How much? There were some figures you gave me about how much it costs per SKU.
So per SKU in industry terms would be, let's say you have a given product in 3 flavors. That's 3 SKUs. Just to give you an idea of some non-technical wording on it.
Three products.
3 products, right?
Yeah.
So a product the actual registration cost with therapeutic goods currently because there is already a registration process. That's worthy of note that we can apply to register our products as therapeutic goods should we wish to. That's between $1,000 to $1,700 per product. So it just got increased. It's about $1,700 per product. Our company has 15 SKUs, so 15 different lines. So we're looking at 45 to 55,000 per annum. Just us. Now apply that to 70,000 products industry wide, and very quickly you start to understand the just obscene economic impacts it has on manufacturing angle.
Is a manufacturer going to invest $50,000 into an industry that possibly doesn't exist anymore?
Exactly. And then you don't know will recover to the same level, or and what does that industry? What are we allowed to supply that industry? What do I practically make now to even if we want to do this in advance? So they did give us about 3 months or so. I think it was around September, October that we first heard of murmurs of this being proposed.
Yeah. So we saw the proposal at the end of last month. So really,
we physically, you're right.
We can't actually we couldn't make any move on this until we'd seen what was put down on paper. All it was at first was
rumours,
whispers.
right? Yeah. It was
a hospital pass in footy.
That's right.
it was Chinese whispers on it.
And everyone said, surely not. Yeah. Surely this can't be what's written in the legislation. That would be insane. It would be embarrassing.
There were some key players that pointed out a little while ago, and honestly just thought it was a joke. Like we just thought, this is actually them having they've doctored this. This is hilarious. And it was sort of just forgotten about but when it actually got published and released to us as an industry, like you said, literally only like 2 weeks ago, with a grace period, this will now be heard in about 8 days. What is it now? It's the 21st or so.
Yeah, so they said we've given them plenty of time to respond.
About a week.
We've got until December 3.
Yep, so it's got about 8 days, realistically, to
from while this is being recorded. You guys, by the time you guys see this, we might have 4.
Hopefully we're better at editing than we are at talking, right? Because we can get this bad boy out today. Yeah, definitely. So we've had a very limited grace period. So that's where we thought we'd make I guess you'll notice, it's a bit more of a casual format to what we've done today, which is awesome, because we're just trying to put forward us having a representative voice, and obviously the people that'll come in future, I hope that we can include people like the OGs of the industry, like Troy and so on. But I think it definitely we've put together some valuable content on what flow-on effects are. But what the industry is doing, I guess, is a really valuable thing we could really touch on now. Hey, what I've loved about this is we've already touched on how supportive we are of current legislation that's already in place and we practice every day. But the industry is actually coming together as a whole, which is fantastic. To sort of give its voice forward. So
for those of you guys who don't know, there's a campaign that I guess everyone in the industry, competitors, people who have been at times have been at each other's throats, have joined up as brothers and as sisters in the industry, and have created this campaign called Save Ozzie Supplements, because this is a huge worry for everyone in the industry.
It is.
You know, you look at one of the big players, you look at Nutrition Warehouse, they've said that if this passes, it will close their 80 stores and put 300 employees out of work. That's from their company alone.
That's just one company.
This campaign's been created, and it has unified the industry, and it's a better environment that I've seen in this industry than I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
I've been around for a while. I've seen it all. I've seen.
It's kind of like when you see tragedies in different countries and they just
all come together.
Same similar. I mean, not as that tragic, but
I think that having a voice for the supplement industry, this podcast is a great idea that kind of Matt's come up with, and it's something that I hope he'll continue on with. And I'm always happy to be a guest speaker on it.
Sure.
But this I guess, coming together, it's fantastic, and I think it's going to build a stronger industry. I think that you'll see, companies working together. I think you'll see some things being produced that are going to be really exciting in the coming months and years, provided this legislation doesn't pass.
Certainly,
and we still have an industry.
Well, we're fortunate. Like when I was speaking to my manufacturer this morning, he's been in this game for something like 25 years as a retailer, wholesaler, distributor, now manufacturer, importer, done everything. They also have exported overseas as well. So they see other countries' approaches, stances, and legislation. So he's got a very robust opinion in this space. And with this here, like I said, just the fact that everyone is now banded together with it, everyone's working together. We've got people right now, for example, that normally wouldn't be in one room. We're representing multiple brands. We're representing multiple shop fronts and stores and wholesaling and retailing. It has brought us together in a really nice place, and hopefully, if nothing comes from this, at least the Save Aussie Supplements movement that you guys can all find quite easily now on Instagram and Facebook and so on to help.
And even if you want to go to the website www.saveaussiesupplements.com.au, you can put forward a proposal to the TGA or I guess
just a quick questionnaire, even something as simple as just putting down a 5-minute jotting in. Do you support the changes? What do you think this will mean for you? And all those sort of things have really profound and meaningful impacts on us. The petition's nearly at 10,000 people already, and it's only been out for a few days. So
I think it's at 11,000 now.
Last time I looked, it was at 9,000. So it's already it's great. It was 5,000 2 days before that. So it's only been out like a week and a half, and it's got massive support, and people with the likes of Nutrition Warehouse, ASN, massive. Corporations are sort of all coming together. And
even brands that were previously competitors are banding together. You've got
technically we
ATP
are.
Science, exactly.
Exactly.
Switch Nutrition,
occupying the same space, doing very similar great things in the Australian market, and they're all coming together on the same team and going, hey, this is a big deal.
It affects everyone.
It does.
We all don't want to see this industry that we've worked so hard for, that we've put so much time into, and that we're passionate about. My passion is helping people. My passion is helping people make real changes to their lives. And I don't want to see that destroyed. I don't want to see it ripped to the ground through legislation that is preposterous and is, like I said, it's almost embarrassing. Yep. Anyone else looking at this legislation from our government, from any other country in the world,
would just laugh
would be like, this is ridiculous. Yeah. I mean, something that we didn't even bring up, you look at something like our elite athletes. Any elite athlete that you look at in any sport, whether it's an Olympian, whether it's a team sport, they use supplements to help with their recovery and with their performance. And every other athlete in the world will have access to these. But in Australia, they won't. They won't be able to buy it off the shelf. They'll have to buy it from some overseas country that's unregulated.
And they won't be under WADA compliance as well. Which is an
and then they could be tested, and who knows what's in that product.
Exactly right.
And that's where making it here, we have amazingly stringent controls. It's fantastic. Like I can place, if I formulate a sports supplement. I know that what I've put forward on paper is what I will receive in the jar. Our factory goes as far to individually test every ingredient they import at the point of importation to make sure what they're getting is 100% pure. So we've got amazing, production standards now. We're in the best country in the world, in my opinion. I've manufactured in the States before as well. I've manufactured international and domestically in several factories within Australia, and it's phenomenal. And it's night and day. The difference in quality control is bloody epic,
And that's the other thing. I think it's important to note that if these laws do change and somehow we manage to, have a time frame that allows us to get products back on the market, all these Aussie manufacturers they're not TGA facilities. So they won't be able to manufacture products anymore. They will shut down. We have got some amazing manufacturers in Western Australia, up in Queensland, Melbourne. There's some really, really good manufacturers of sports supplements that will no longer be able to exist because they're not TGA facilities.
Certainly, they're not registered as a compliance. And by all accounts, this makes this makes millions and millions of dollars.
I mean, someone's life work just goes. Someone's life work. I mean, you've been in this industry a lot longer than us do, for example. It's like 15 years or something, and that's your life work.
Exactly. I mean, for me, if this happens, everything that I've done for the last 10 years is for nothing.
Yep.
And, I've got a family. I'm a dad. I've got a 2-year-old son.
1-year-old daughter.
If this happens, I have no income stream for them anymore. I can't support my family.
And I mean,
I'm going to be there in the job seekers queue.
Dude, and you know what? Imagine how many people are going to go to Sydney. Let's be real. Like, how many thousands of people go there and then take more money from the government, taxpayers' money? So,
generating.
When your entire life's work and your area of expertise revolves around supplements and nutrition, and that industry is gone, well, my skills aren't really valued in many other industries.
Society. We've sort of pigeonholed ourselves.
Exactly
We unfortunately went down a bit of a niche market with our skill set, but we're good at what we do.
I'm not the first person that jumps out for for an accounting job or I
want to start selling vacuum cleaners after you.
You probably could, bro. You probably could.
But it's difficult, and it's it's something that I've spent a lot of time and invested a lot of time into training in. It's something that I've spent a lot of time investing my money into. I've built up a store from the ground up.
The products that you've just made as well. How many product SKUs do you have now?
Yeah, so I mean, I've myself started manufacturing a small amount of products, which is doing reasonably well.
And there's a lot of Aussies like that in Australia.
Yeah, and to see that die in its infancy before it even gets off the ground,
It's sad, isn't it? And we've gone through the infancy from 3-4 years ago when we were established, and we've gone through the backbreaking. Trying to grow.
It's crazy, man, because both of your businesses I can see are slowly on the way up, and they're about to break, and now you've just been hit with this. It's like, man, we're just getting there. We're getting there.
We just want to
get there.
Well, essentially, we all want the same thing. Yeah. This is what we want. We want an industry where we can produce products that are of fantastic high quality, that help people make changes to their lives, that are safe. That are effective, and that are economically viable. Okay, people don't realise that currently there's not a huge amount of GP in this stuff. We're a low markup industry.
Oh, compared to most of the manufacturing sectors, it's ridiculous. I speak to other factories internationally, and they laugh it out when we talk about the numbers we make. They're like, "Oh, how do you run a business on those?"
That's what it comes down to. Like Stu touched base on, we purely do this to help people.
Certainly, it's not.
And I mean, and don't get me wrong, we're not a charity. Like, obviously, we all have families to feed as well, and we make money out of this industry. But we get to do it doing something that we love, and we also get to go home and say, "I'll help someone today."
Yeah. Well, we're not behind the counter selling cigarettes.
Exactly right.
So. Yes, and other less regulated industries that alcohol, etc., which fall under the TGA's guidelines as well. So it's all a funny situation, but I think at least we can put forward a good unified voice, and everyone's on the same page here, from manufacturing, distributing, and retail. Everything from the small business front right through to the actual factories themselves that are already in a really nicely regulated, robust framework for regulation. We're already providing world's best standards for safe products that are being produced to help people feel better, sleep better, have more energy, recover faster.
You're going to have people make the argument that, well, what are you talking about? It's not safe. We've seen people break the rules.
So the everyday person that doesn't go to the gym or train or just drinks alcohol, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying.
I think a point that I want to make though is you're going to have lawbreakers regardless of the legislation. Okay, so whatever legislation is passed, you're going to have lawbreakers. They exist out there, and it's a problem. It's a problem, and anything that can reduce that is great. But you have a lawbreaker who's already breaking the current laws. They're already breaking the current laws. So by increasing the amount of products that need to be need to be registered as therapeutic goods, it doesn't reduce the lawbreakers.
No, it doesn't make it any safer.
The lawbreakers are already breaking the law, and they're doing it knowing that they could face 5 years imprisonment or fines of over $1 million. By adding more products to the therapeutic register, that doesn't change the Lawbreakers. What it essentially does is it punishes the people who are doing the right thing.
Because we are currently fully disclosed, all of our products are open labelled, so if any customer wanted to know at any one point, when they pick it at the point of picking up that product, they know exactly what's in there, fully disclosed, doses, even down to, we have to disclose everything down to the coating of the colour of the artificial sweetener we might use. You know, it might be, E950 red flavouring. Every milligram in that product currently, and it's fully disclosed, and it's a wonderful place. It wasn't that way even a few years ago. You'd remember lots of proprietary blends, lots of undisclosed products, lots of...
You didn't have to say where your ingredients were coming from. Now, if you are claiming Australian made and your ingredients are sourced from overseas, you have to say that you use overseas ingredients.
Yeah,
and I think that's a good thing. People want to know that.
Transparency.
And the packaging laws that we have now, that's exactly what they're doing. They're making things transparent. People can see what's in the products, and especially with Australian-made stuff, which is essentially what I try and stock. I have some US brands. I stock some brands that you represent, Matt, but I stock the US brands that I've gone out and looked at and said, okay, these guys are doing the right thing, and these guys have the kind of compliance that we have in Australia. There's brands from the US that I wouldn't touch.
But unfortunately, customers will have to touch very quickly if they don't have an option domestically. If they stop using our fully transparent, openly labelled, fully disclosed products domestically, go to internationally unregulated, undisclosed proprietary blended products, very quickly the risk increases drastically, and we very quickly will end up in a similar space to, well, hopefully we don't, but possibly what started all this in the first place. We if it's about harm and risk minimisation, this is
so
not...
basically, if this goes ahead, it's not going to benefit.
If it makes the average supplement consumer go towards a less regulated space for their current demand, and anyone who just had the benefits before of things from fish oil to apple cider vinegar, this isn't just protein powders and pre-workouts. People who want to have energy for a workout, this is elderly using vitamin D supplements.
So it's not just sports supplement shops. You look at your natural holistic health food store.
Gotcha.
What about most of their products are gone?
Certainly, and as you mentioned before, Stu, supermarkets. The sports supplement section in there, even vitamin gummies and so on. All the thousands of products they will be pulled off.
Kids' vitamin gummies. How crazy is that? Right?
It would be, man. All these things will be regulated as medicines and so on. So it'll be, you will see shelves at Woolworths and Coles, your local supermarkets, impacted by this as well. It's not just us. It's not in a niche market. It's everyone for general health. So, but I'm glad we could put that forward, guys, and I hope we can get a chance to do this again very soon.
Maybe next time we'll talk about something a bit more fun, maybe a bit,
less dry, hey, with less government.
A little bit more comical, maybe.
Yeah, I think we can put something fun together and maybe highlight some of the good things that are happening and good products that are out there.
And there's so many
people of the game.
And there's so many exciting advances in the industry that I'm seeing, and there's some ingredients that I'm seeing that are really exciting, that are safe and effective.
We're such big innovators here. It's so fantastic. That's what the manufacturer said. It's such a shame because Australia is the most innovative supplement industry.
Do you find in Australia when someone finds a really good ingredient, it's so good that Australia, we're going to ban that. We're going to ban that. You're getting the ban. You're getting the ban. You're getting the ban.
It's easy to look at it like that and say that TGA are the fun police. Like I've said earlier in this podcast, I'm not against the TGA. I'm all for working with the TGA and having an open forum and correspondence with the TGA. We want to have a conversation with them about this. We want to have direct consultation with them, with the industry. That's really important, is that they talk to us about these things and say, hey guys, you're the ones at the coalface.
Yeah, what do you think?
What's happening here? What do you think's going on? And they're not doing that. They're not talking to the guys who are down on the ground. You've got an office of a few individuals in Canberra who is totally removed from
it's like if you're in the military, you're just talking at the guys at the office, but not the guy at the ground troops.
Exactly right. You have to consult with the guys in the trenches, but not just the guys in the trenches. We're also talking about manufacturers. We're talking about sales reps. We're talking about the corporate world in supplements. We're talking about things like fitness expos. These will cease to exist.
And they're huge. They're $1 million events. They're massive.
Who do you think puts all these stands in the fitness expos? Supplement companies.
And pays for them. And pays great pumps huge amounts of money to the local economy for it.
They need to be talking to these people in all these sectors that make up what we call the fitness industry.
Because we really are drivers of innovation. We're drivers of general health and well-being, but it's the innovation part and things that have, just to bring to light, so things that have been used in the past that under the, as you mentioned way back at the start of the podcast, the FSANZ ledge, which governs things like there have been ingredients in the past, like stimulants, for example. One is Dynamine. Not to make it too specific for people who don't know supplements, but a stimulant in the past was put into what we considered a grey area in the legislation. So that company actually went through the effort of spending literally over $500,000 to put through
Compound Solutions.
Yeah, Compound Solutions. Shout out to Maddie over there to actually put this thing through rigorous standards to make sure it passed health safety, human health safety assessments. It was like I said, nearly a $600,000 process to get these rigorous studies done, and they found that even at something like 500 times the dose ever seen in any supplement in Australia, it was safe. Cool. So this was considered a safe product, assessed as humanly safe, and it would still go under this legislation as part of products that are banned, and it's already considered safe for human consumption. So if it's about risk minimisation, here's quite an obvious exercise where that isn't quite the case.
I mean, do you remember that ingredient Alcofuel? Just touch base on that. That was a hot topic. But you need to take like a obscene amount to... Yeah,
definitely.
And I mean, I think it's important to note though that with any of these kind of compounds that we look at on the market, even outside the sports nutrition industry, you're going to have what we call a lethal dosage. What are they?
LD50. So lethal dose 50%. Yeah, certainly.
You can look at any compound.
Oh god, yeah.
Whether it's whether you're looking at corn flour or table salt.
There's going to be an caffeine. If you're taking them seed amount like 6 grams of caffeine.
There's going to be an amount that can kill you.
There is, and we have to have as a back end thing. It doesn't really concern too much at the forefront, but we actually have to have toxicology docs on everything we use. So if I want to put a given stimulant, straight caffeine powder, for example, has its own LD50, so the dose that will kill 50% of the people are using it. So the LD50 has to have a toxicology report, safety reports on it, at the point of purchase, just before it gets to the factory, before we even can suggest it gets used in a product downstream, which is then regulated to a point where it's dosage per ingredient, per serve, per product to get to the consumer. So there's plenty of really good framework in place. Make sure you guys are safe listening to this podcast, and we're applauding that, and we love that we're in an industry that can brag about that, and hopefully moving forward, if we can see some constructive dialogue between us and representing the industry and obviously the government bodies that are relevant. I think that's a really positive outcome from 3 guys sitting around having a yarn,
100%.
So I'd like to think that's a really nice sort of take home to sort of wrap her up. If we, I think we've covered a good body of what's currently regulated, what regulations look like in Australia, who's affected, what products will not be available.
Get behind this, guys. Get behind it.
Please do.
Get on the Save Aussie supplements.
Definitely.
Share this podcast. Comment on it. Give it a like.
Make your own podcast. Let's get some conversation. The more noise, the better.
Yeah, talk to you.
Follow Matt's new podcast that he's creating for the supplement.
We should have a name very soon.
I think our Instagram chat was the Ferry Podcast. So.
Yeah, certainly.
I don't know if that'll really work, but
so Stu, where can we follow you on Instagram?
Yeah, where can we find you guys?
Where can we find you?
So look, you can follow Universal Supplements at universal_supplements_AUS.
And your personal one?
Yeah, if you want to follow my personal one.
It pops, man. He's got a lot of Dreaming Elegance pictures on there.
I'm not sure why. At the Stu Shannon is my personal Instagram.
And Will?
Yeah, at Primabolics. So just as spelled on the shirt. For Instagram, same as Facebook as well. My personal one's tiny, but by all accounts, you can find us, and we're all putting our cases towards this Save Aussie Supplements website, and that seems to be the unified front for everyone in the industry. So the most meaningful thing you could do, whether you listen to 2 minutes or a whole hour on this thing today, is just jump onto that website, do the 5-minute little questionnaire, just having your say, whether it be for or against. It's very interesting hearing dialogue on both sides.
Absolutely, I mean, we're for it as well.
We're for discussion.
And if someone's against it, well, why?
Yep, certainly.
And there's nothing wrong with that. We can maybe help educate them.
Of course, and it offers a valuable opinion. So, and which is what we're doing here on behalf of the industry. So please jump on SaveAussieSupplements.com. It's on Instagram as well at SaveAussieSubs. Please jump on there, have your say, and help us out. Like I said, it's already growing by thousands a day. So you guys are doing a great job already. But at the very least, if that's all that comes from today, more awareness of that movement, then I think we've done a good job, gents.
That's it,
gentlemen.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming in.
Absolute pleasure, guys.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching, guys.